If you want to change the world, start by making your bed. This praise, popularized by Admiral William H. McRaven, has echoed through graduation speeches, self-help books, and motivational videos across the globe. It has become a symbol, an emblem of discipline, of willpower, of the idea that great victories are built upon small ones. And for millions of people, this advice is a source of frustration. Have you ever felt this way? You hear this maxim and think, is that it? Make my bed? How can this trivial 5-minute act have any real impact on my procrastination, my anxiety, my ability to focus on what truly matters? You try for a day, 2, maybe a week, but the feeling is artificial. It feels like a moral obligation, another item on a never-ending to-do list. And eventually, the habit fades, and you feel a little guilty, as if you've failed a basic test of character. You think, I just don't have the necessary discipline. What if I told you the Admiral was right, but for the wrong reasons? What if the power of making your bed has absolutely nothing to do with discipline, willpower, or moral character? What if, in fact, it's a hack, a neurochemical trick, a way to manipulate your brain's operating system, flipping a switch that primes your mind for productivity and control for the rest of the day? The act of making your bed is not a test, it's a trigger. It starts a chain reaction in your brain, an invisible cascade that makes every subsequent task easier to execute. It's not about proving you're disciplined, it's about making discipline irrelevant. In the next few minutes, we will ignore the superficial motivation and dive deep into neuroscience. We will open up your mind's control panel and expose the exact mechanism that transforms this simple habit into one of the most powerful productivity tools in existence. Stay with me, because you are about to receive the relief of knowing that your difficulty in forming habits is not a personal failure. It's just a system bug. And you're about to learn how to install the patch. Before we can understand why making your bed works, we need to understand why the traditional approach fails. Productivity culture is obsessed with the idea of willpower. We treat it like a moral muscle that needs to be exercised. If you procrastinate, it's because your willpower is weak. If you can't stick to a habit, it's because you didn't try hard enough. This view is not only ineffective, it's scientifically inaccurate and psychologically damaging. Research in neuroscience shows that willpower, or what scientists call executive control, is a finite resource. It's managed by an area of your brain called the prefrontal cortex. Think of your prefrontal cortex as the CEO of your mind. It's responsible for planning, complex decision-making, suppressing impulses, and forcing you to do difficult things. The problem is, this CEO has a limited battery. Every decision you make throughout the day, no matter how small, what to wear, what to eat for breakfast, which email to answer first, drains a bit of that battery. This is known as decision fatigue. When you wake up and try to use willpower to force yourself to start the day, you're asking your CEO to do heavy lifting with the battery still at 10%. It's a losing battle. You're using your most precious resource on the wrong task. Willpower shouldn't be the car's ignition, it should be the turbo, used only in critical moments. True, sustainable productivity doesn't come from having more willpower, it comes from creating systems and environments that make willpower unnecessary. And this is exactly where the neurochemistry of our first daily habit comes into play. Forget discipline, let's talk about chemistry. Specifically about a neurotransmitter you've heard of, but perhaps don't fully understand: dopamine. Dopamine is often called the pleasure molecule, but that's a misconception. Dopamine is the molecule of motivation, anticipation. It's released not when you receive a reward, but when you anticipate and work toward a reward. It's the engine that drives you to act. Your brain is essentially a prediction and reward machine. It's constantly looking for cues that an action will lead to a positive outcome. When it finds that cue and you act on it, it releases a little bit of dopamine, which motivates you to continue. Now, let's analyze the act of making the bed through this neurochemical lens. Making the bed is a perfect task for our primitive brain. Why? Because it has three ideal neurological characteristics: a clear beginning and end. There is no ambiguity. You know exactly when the task starts and when it ends. The bed is made. Immediate visual feedback. The moment you finish, you see the result. The transformation from chaos to order is instant and undeniable. Low effort, high visual reward. The task requires minimal physical and mental effort, but the sensory reward, the sight of a clean and organized environment, is disproportionately high. When you complete this task, your brain registers a win. It closes a task loop. And in doing so, it releases a small but significant dose of dopamine. This is the crucial point. This initial morning dose of dopamine is not the end of the story. It's the beginning. It's the first domino to fall in a sequence that neuroscientists call a dopamine cascade. This initial hit of dopamine doesn't just make you feel good, it primes the pump of your motivation system. It increases the sensitivity of your dopamine receptors and floods your reward circuit, particularly an area called the nucleus accumbens. With the motivation system already on and warmed up, the next task you face seems a little less daunting. The initial resistance to start working, to answer that difficult email, to go to the gym, decreases. You've created what author Charles Duhigg calls a keystone habit, a habit that triggers a chain reaction of other good habits. Making your bed doesn't give you the energy for the whole day. It gives you the chemical energy to start the next task. And completing that task gives you the energy for the one after that, and so on. It's a momentum strategy. You're not trying to climb the mountain of productivity all at once. You're just taking the first step, which makes the second step feel inevitable. You're hacking your brain's reward system to work for you instead of fighting against it with a limited resource like willpower. The dopamine cascade is the primary mechanism, but the act of making your bed triggers two other powerful programs in your brain. Hidden hack number 1. The illusion of control. Internal locus of control. Psychology teaches us about a concept called the locus of control. People with an external locus of control believe their lives are governed by forces outside of their control: luck, fate, other people. This often leads to feelings of helplessness and anxiety. People with an internal locus of control believe they are the primary agents of their own lives. They believe their actions have direct consequences. This is associated with greater happiness, resilience, and success. The modern world, with its constant stream of chaotic news and external demands, constantly pushes us toward an external locus of control. You wake up and you're immediately bombarded by things you cannot control. The act of making your bed is the first and simplest act of imposing your will onto your environment. It is you deliberately transforming a small portion of the universe from chaos to order. It is a silent declaration to your subconscious that says, "Here, in this space, I am in control." This small act of agency at the start of the day helps to calibrate your brain for an internal locus of control. It sets the tone. It reminds you that while you can't control the world out there,
You are the master of your immediate environment. This feeling of control, even if initially small, lowers anxiety and increases your ability to handle the bigger challenges to come. Hidden hack number 2. The environmental trigger, the psychology of space. Your brain is an association machine. It learns to associate certain environments with certain mental states and behaviors. This is why it's so hard to work in bed or to relax at your work desk. Your brain gets confused about which mode to activate. An unmade bed sends a signal to the brain, this is a space of rest, leisure, perhaps even laziness. Keeping that signal visible while you're trying to be productive elsewhere in your home creates cognitive dissonance, a background noise that drains your
mental energy. A made bed, on the other hand, closes the rest loop. It sends a clear, crisp signal. The period of sleep is over. This space is now closed for rest. A new period, the day of work and activity, has begun. You are essentially redesigning your environment so that it works for you, not against you. You're creating a clear distinction between your modes of operation. This environmental clarity translates into mental clarity, freeing up cognitive resources that would otherwise be spent fighting contradictory signals from your space. You are optimizing your physical world to optimize your mental world. This idea of keystone habits and small wins isn't just theory, it's observed in countless fields. In the book, The Power of the Habit, Charles Duhigg details case studies of how introducing a single keystone habit, like food journaling or starting an exercise program, inevitably leads to improvements in other, unrelated areas of life, like finances and workplace productivity. The mechanism is the same. The feeling of accomplishment and agency spreads. In the military, the practice of keeping barracks impeccably tidy is not primarily about aesthetics. It is fundamental training in the principle that discipline in small things translates to efficiency and attention to detail in high-stakes situations. It is the institutionalization of the dopamine cascade and the internal locus of control. The soldier who controls their immediate environment is better prepared to control their actions in a chaotic one. Ultimate proof, however, is not in books or studies. It's in your own experience. The goal of this video is not just to inform, but to transform. And transformation only happens through action. So the next time you look at your unmade bed in the morning, don't see it as a test of your discipline. Don't see it as a boring chore or a moral obligation. See it for what it really is, a control panel, and ignition button for your brain's motivation system. The first domino. The power of making your bed is not in the act itself, but in the chemical reaction it triggers. It is proof that you don't need more willpower to overcome procrastination and anxiety. You need smarter triggers. You need to understand your own brain's instruction manual and use its systems to your advantage. This is the relief that neuroscience offers us. Your struggles with productivity are not a character flaw. They are the result of a misalignment between the demands of the modern world and the ancient operating system we all share. Making your bed is one of the simplest and most effective patches you can install. And here is my challenge to you. I don't want you to commit to making your bed for the rest of your life. That's intimidating. I want you to run a 5-day experiment, just 5. For each of the next 5 days, the first thing you will do upon getting up is make your bed. And as you do it, don't think about discipline. Think about chemistry. Think, I am starting my dopamine cascade. I am activating my achievement circuit. At the end of the 5th day, come back to this video. I want you to answer this question in the comments. Did you notice any difference, however small, in your willingness to start the next task of your day? Your experience is the most important data. By sharing it, you not only solidify your own learning, but you help our entire community understand the real power of these neurohacks. Start tomorrow, not to change the world,
but to reprogram yours.